What's up, fantasy managers? We are giving the big boys some love. What is a team? Nay, what is a fantasy team without the boys up front, the offensive line? The information I got can help you decide if you're going to start a player for week 6 or if you're going to sit a player for week 6. I'm actually battling that right now. I have players I'm debating if I'm going to start or sit. I'm going to share this information with you. I know you're interested. Stick around for 7 seconds. Okay, so the information I'm going to share with you is actually from PFF. I found it. These articles that come out every week. They are week matchups for offensive line and defensive line. They tell you who to avoid and who to target. And then at the very end, I'm going to do some like quick hits because there's like additional stats that I really like that I want to go over and I'm going to share with you. So right now, let's get right into it. I'm going to do which players that you should target because of the offensive line matchup against the defensive line. And the first game we're going to talk about is the Packers versus the Cardinals while we're targeting the Packers offensive line. The Packers offensive line owns the best pass blocking grade in the league this season, allowing just 2.1% pressure rate. That is among the 10 best marks in the league, while the Arizona Cardinals defensive line ranks 29th in pass rush grade, 27th in pass rush win rate, and 28th in pressure rate. So what this is saying right here, the Green Bay Packers offensive line do not give up a lot of pressures, and the Cardinals defensive line doesn't pressure at all. So it seems like Jordan Love is just going to sit back, relax, and have his way in this defense. So who does that benefit? Well, first it benefits Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love this year, he's been good, but, he hasn't been great. But he does have some good stats out there that are really eye-popping right now, like deep ball attempts, he's 9th. Red zone attempts, he's 13th. Those are both great. Some of the most important ones are fantasy points per dropback. He's 11th. Fantasy points per game or quarterbacks, he's 4th. Expected fantasy points per game, he's 7th. But this is when it gets a little tricky. So I'm just talking about now how he's expected to have a clean pocket in this upcoming game. But his clean pocket completion percentage is 31st overall. That is not great. So he can have a good game, but there is one player that PFF is actually pointing out that he is going to have a great game. And that's because when Jordan Love can get some time in the pocket and he can sit there and wait for the route to develop. I hate that I'm saying this because I was big on this guy again, but at least I know, I'm not crazy. And PFF, that has probably a team of experts are saying this, but who this is going to benefit this week is Dontavian Wicks. This is one of the players I've been struggling with this week. I was really high on him last week. I was pushing him. I was like, dude, he's got a great matchup. It's going against the Rams. There's going to be a lot of points scored. The dude can't catch, and he really fucked it up. And so I was thinking about not playing him this week, but then he has another great matchup. But then I was like, well, I also got Tank Dell with Nico Collins out. Maybe I could play Tank Dell, but he's not really doing much anything. So I also went to the wide receiver cornerback cheat sheet, and I'm looking at Dontavian Wicks still. He is 53% routes run, and that's going to go up because he's on the field a lot more. As soon as Christian Watson went out, he had 56 snaps that game, and he's getting targeted on 27% of the time per route run, and he's scoring fantasy points per route run 0.54, and that's extremely good. Now, this is what PFF has to say about targeting Dontavian Wicks specifically for this game. They talked about how he let the community down last week, and everyone was talking about dropping him. He only had 2 catches for 20 receiving yards, and he finished with a PPR wide receiver 73 for the week. Understandably, not many will be confident enough to go back to the well with Wicks in week 6, but there are still reasons to feel encouraged about his potential to be a fantasy starter, despite the poor showing in week 5. On non-pressure dropbacks, Wicks leads the team with a 29.6% target rate and is second behind Jaden Reed with 2.35 yards per route run in those situations. Jordan Love hasn't been the best quarterback, but when kept clean this year, he has thrown 6 touchdown passes in those same situations, which is top 5 in the league despite missing 2 games this year. The Cardinals also own the 3rd worst team coverage grade this season at 52.6, allowing 8.14 passing yards per attempt. That is 3rd worst in the league. Like I said before, they won't be able to pressure Jordan Love, so he's going to be able to sit in a clean pocket, and he's going to be able to take his time, let Dontavian Wicks run his route, because Dontavian Wicks' average target distance is 11th in the league, so which is great. So he's getting downfield. He just needs that time. 11th in the league, 14 yards. So every time in PPR, every time he makes a catch, it's automatic 2 points. But the thing is, he's also 3rd in drops. But overall, from what I'm reading in PFF, I will start Dontavian Wicks again over Tank. Let the fantasy gods be on my side this time. And Wicks, please catch the fucking ball. And on to the second game that we're focusing on this week. And we're going to target the Colts versus the Titans. Now, the Colts own the second best pass blocking grade at 82.7 this season, allowing just 18.7% pressure rate. That is also the second best mark in the league. And the Titans, their defensive line ranks just 27th in pass rush grade this season, while generating the worst pressure rate at 19.3% on the year. So they are not getting to the quarterback at all. And surprisingly, the Colts offensive line is actually doing pretty well in pass block. So who does this really benefit? Well, of course, Anthony Richardson. But the thing is, he's on everyone's bench because he is playing so shitty right now. His completion percentage is below 50%. I believe it's 48%. And he's turning the ball over every game. So if he's playing, I mean, he's still on my bench until I see anymore. I'm starting Jane. So if he's playing, it doesn't matter. I'm still putting him on my bench. I'm not going to start him until I have to, until I see some improvement where he actually makes some pretty good throws. So I'm starting Jaden Daniels over him, of course. But there is another player who this benefits, and it's wide receiver Josh Downs. Now, granted, if Joe Flacco was playing, he will get a major bump. But he can still do well with Anthony Richardson on the team, and I'll tell you why. Well, his route running is pretty damn good. His win rate versus man is second overall. His target rate versus man is fifth overall. This guy definitely knows how to get open. And I saw another stat here that his target share, seventh overall, 23.5% in the red zone. So let's just add that. And then let's go ahead and just read what PFF had to say. So this may feel fairly obvious considering Downs is coming off back-to-back weeks of starting worthy fantasy production. However, there has been some hesitation and fully embracing him with the potential that Anthony Richardson returns this week. We've already went over that. The encouraging markers to trust Downs are quite strong, as his role in the offense should supersede that of a quarterback change. Downs has presented himself as a quarterback-friendly target out of the slot who can work in the middle of the field, get open, and make himself the primary option of this offense. This is highlighted by an incredible, very, very, very high 42.6% target rate on non-pressure dropbacks, which is not just the best for the Colts, but is second best among all league wide receivers, only behind Cooper Kupp. Downs should continue to get plenty of looks while his quarterback has kept clean, keeping his fantasy value high in week 6. So basically what this is saying is when there's a clean pocket, he has a very high rate of catching the ball. All they got to do is just get this guy a little bit of time. And apparently he's going to get a lot of time because the Titans cannot put any pressure on quarterbacks, and they're not going to be able to do it at all against that good offensive line for the Colts. And here we go. This is the third game that we want to target. We want to target the Jaguars versus the Bears. Let me just shrink this a little bit. Big head off the screen. And what do they have to say about it? Well, the Jaguars offensive line has generated a 1.5 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That's the 8th best in the league. And the Bears defensive line is on the opposite end of the spectrum, allowing 1.6 rushing yards before contact per attempt. That ranks 25th on the season. So what is happening is the Bears are getting a lot of push. Oh, no. Sorry. The Jags are doing a lot of pushing, and the Bears are doing a lot of pulling. So the Bears are going in the wrong direction, and this benefits the running back. And this is the other player that I was actually debating against because I have Devon Achane, who is on a bye, and I have Tank Bigsby, and I also have Bucky Irving. And I was debating between which of the two should I start. They both have their benefits and their cons. But after reading this, it looks like I am going to try and start running back Tank Bigsby on my team in week 6. Now, Tank Bigsby is definitely the better running back out of between him and Etienne in the Jaguars backfield. Some stats for Tank Bigsby: his yards per touch, he's second. Juke rate, he's number 1. Evaded tackles, he's 16th. Breakaway runs, he's 4th. Breakaway run rate, he's 1st. And yards created per touch, he's 1st. So he's creating yards when they're not even there. He's the number 1 running back in the league at creating his own yards. But then, we still get the whole thing where it's all Travis Etienne. Oh, he's still Doug Peterson's all. He's still the guy. He's still a guy that he's our number 1 dude. Well, also, I've been listening to Coach Speak Index, and Coach Peterson's, I guess when you say his truth, he's telling the truth 35% of the time when he's talking about depth chart. So, take this with a little grain of salt when he's saying that Travis Etienne is still his guy. So what does PFF have to say about, I think, Bigsby? Okay, so they're kind of like talking about how there is concerns regarding Travis Etienne's involvement and assuming that he's healthy, and that even if Etienne plays, Bigsby stands out as a strong flex option this week in a favorable matchup. When provided at least one rushing yard before contact this season, Bigsby owns a 91.3 rushing grade. That's the fifth best at his position. Using the same qualifiers, Bigsby is averaging 11.5 yards per carry. That marks the best in the league. He also adds a 0.59 missed tackles forced per attempt in those situations, which is also best among all running backs. With Bigsby cutting into goal line, short yardage, and early down work in Jacksonville's backfield, he could be too good to sit this week. I'm sold. He's going to be my RB2 going into week 6. If you made it this far and you're enjoying the video and you're digging the information, please subscribe, press the like. Something so small impacts the channel so much. We appreciate all you zoners out there. Thank you for watching. All right, we were talking about teams, offensive lines that we wanted to target. Now let's talk about teams that offensive lines that we want to avoid. Kind of like ice them out of your lineup, so to speak. Frost them out. Chargers versus the Broncos. Let's say avoid the Chargers. Chargers offensive line owns a 51.2 pass blocking grade that ranks 28th in the league. Broncos defensive lines have generated a 36.9% pressure rate. That's the best in the league. Denver's D is one of the most blitz heavy defenses in the league at 48.3%. So we know the Chargers have a good running game, right? They have a good offensive line for that, but they don't have the greatest offensive line when it comes to passing. And now they're going up against a defensive line that puts a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, and they blitz a lot. The Broncos defense has actually been really surprisingly good this year. And the Chargers and Justin Herbert, he's been nothing great, nothing spectacular. You know, when I go look at his stats, there's nothing really that stands out. I mean, he has a good passer rating against zone, but I mean, that's pretty much it. He's also been kind of, you know, playing hurt. He's got that foot thing. He's got that foot fetish now. He's got an injured foot, and he's really got no one to throw the ball to. He's got that McConkey. You know, he could throw the ball to him. My bold prediction was he will get 100 receptions. You know, if we want to get that going, that'd be great. Yeah, so Justin Herbert is the player that you want to avoid. Most of the time, you don't want to start any quarterback against the Denver Broncos. All right, so Justin Herbert, when he is pressured this season, Herbert owns a 29.3 passing grade that ranks 29th among 33 qualifying quarterbacks. Herbert's 9.8% turnover-worthy play rate ranks third worst among the same qualifying quarterbacks. Herbert's yards per attempt also drops quite a bit when pressured, going from 7.2 to 4.5, which ranks 25th among 32 qualifying quarterbacks when pressured. Yeah, so it doesn't really look good for Justin Herbert. And I know there's buys going on, and maybe you guys could be tempted to, let's say, start him, stream him just because of name value. But this matchup is not good, and he should probably just stay where he's at, or which he's been kind of most of the season, and kind of like a backup, you know, on your bench. He is not worth a streaming option this week. So the second game we're going to talk about that we want to avoid the Saints versus the Buccaneers. We want to try to ice out that quarterback and the wide receivers. Saints offensive line is the second worst pass blocking grade on the season at 38.9, allowing a 33.8% pressure rate. That's tied for fourth worst in the league. Tampa Bay is the second most blitz heavy defense in the NFL, which has led to an improved average team rush metrics, which is basically saying PFF is like, they're not the best, but they're good enough to make a difference against that Saints offensive line. And the person that we want to try to target to really ice out is Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave has been the most, you know, outstanding player that you have on your team. I know a lot of people are always trying to get rid of this guy. His whole issue, even though he is Derek Carr's favorite target, that isn't a running back, is that he doesn't score touchdowns. Last year, I think he only had like 4 or 5 touchdowns on the year. Right now, through 5 games, he only has 1 touchdown. And a lot of his other stats are just not good. Like, you're looking at it, they're like, most of them are like, he's outside the top 20 in stats, right? For a wide receiver. And then this is what PFF has to say about trying to avoid Chris Olave. While there is significant question mark at quarterback for the Saints this week, this isn't the only thing holding back Olave's potential in week 6. Even with Derek Carr at quarterback, Olave has earned just a 11.5% target rate on pressured dropbacks, which is 5th on his own team. So he's the number one. So he's the number one option But when there's pressure, he definitely isn't. Who I think it is probably Alvin Kamara, because he's coming out of the backfield and he's always getting all the receptions. Most likely going to lead his team in receptions. So this could be a bad game for Chris Olave, but a good game for Alvin Kamara. On non-pressure dropbacks, Olave leads the team's wide receivers with a 25.9% target rate and 2.69 yards per route run. Expect this Saints starting quarterback to be under a lot of pressure this week, considering how poor the offensive line has been while trying to deal with Tampa Bay's frequent blitz attempts. Whoever starts at quarterback this week, they're not going to deal with the pressure as well as Derek Carr, because Derek Carr, I guess, has the best passing grade at 79.1 on the season when pressured. And he doesn't throw the ball to Chris Olave when he's pressured. It has to be Alvin Kamara. So this is definitely a game that you want to try to avoid Chris Olave. Now let's go to our third and final game and find a team that we want to avoid, and it's the Broncos. We want to avoid the Broncos versus the Chargers. Broncos offensive line has generated just a 0.8 rushing yards before contact per attempt, which ranks 28th. Now we may have an understanding why Javonte Williams has sucked this year, right? Chargers defensive line ranks 7th in run defense grade, 63.6 this season, while allowing just 1.2 rushing yards before contact per attempt, and that's 12th. So the Denver Broncos are not getting any push at that line of scrimmage, and the Chargers are getting a lot of push on the defensive side, meeting them in the backfield. So yeah, Javonte Williams, this is the guy that you want to try to ice out of your lineup this week if you can. And just by checking out his stats, like, I don't want to read any of the running metrics because they're not good. There's nothing good about his running stats here. But the one thing that really kind of maybe keeps him afloat at times is that he's actually really good on the receiving end. He's the 11th overall in receiving. Out of running backs, he's 11th overall in receiving yards. He's 17th in routes run, 11th in target share, top 20 in yards per reception for running backs, 11th in yards per route run. So his catch rate's 13, so he doesn't really drop the ball. And that's basically it. So it's the passing game that may keep him afloat, but his running is just so bad. And that's how it's been even before his injury. And that's just how it's been. It's been like that this year, and it's been like that last year. Now let's see what PFF has to say. So Williams is coming off his best fantasy performance of the season in Week 5, finishing as the overall PPR running back 12 against the Las Vegas Raiders, who have allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to opposing running back. So it was a great matchup for Javonte Williams last week, and this week it's definitely not. Williams faces a more difficult matchup this week against the Chargers, specifically due to a disadvantage in the trenches, the battle of the trenches, that determines games. But the Chargers are also allowing the 7th fewest points per game to the running back position. So he's definitely on the other side now in his matchup. When contacted 2 or fewer yards from the line of scrimmage, Williams owns just a 46.7 rushing grade, which ranks 61st among 68 qualifying running backs. Under those same qualifiers, Williams owns just a 9.8% first down touchdown rate, which ranks 46, and his 2.0 yards per carry ranks 54th. As far as Williams' receiving down roll, the Chargers are allowing the fewest yards per target to the running back position at 3.5, and the second best first down touchdown rate allowed at 13.3% to the running backs all season. I just told you guys that he is surviving through his receiving, and now he's playing against a Chargers team that is great at stopping the running backs in the running and the receiving game. So Javonte Williams, you need to put this guy on the bench. So this game, I feel like we just need to avoid on both ends. And I'm looking at the over and under right now, and it might be the lowest of the week at a 35.5. That is not something fantasy managers want to be a part of. I would try to probably avoid this game altogether, but definitely ice out Javonte Williams. Put this dude on your bench. Now, I just want to give some quick information about these other games. These games here are the games that you want to have players in. So the first one is Atlanta at Carolina. This is Atlanta's offense. This is Carolina's defense. So Atlanta's offense allows pressure rate 24% of the time, sack converted rate 15% of the time, but Carolina's pressure rate is 26%. That's actually, I think that is below league average by a couple percentages, and their sack conversion rate is 15. So they're saying here that benefits Atlanta by 35%, and this is one of the highest advantages of the week. So we could see a lot of passing coming from Kirk Cousins that will benefit Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts. Screw Kyle Pitts. I hope he doesn't do anything. But Drake London and Darnell Mooney actually, as well, the running game. This is how bad Carolina is. Their defense is bad. You want to start every wide receiver, every tight end, every cornerback or quarterback and running back against Carolina, because Atlanta's yards before contact is 1.24, and the Carolina's defense, they give up 1.25 yards before contact. So they are definitely getting pushed. They're getting bullied in the trenches. So you could do both, but it looks like this may be more of a passing game. If Andy Dalton is on fire, it can turn into a shootout, but if they're able to stop Andy Dalton, we can see more of the running game on this one. So the next game I want to talk about here is just Green Bay home against Arizona. Green Bay. This is Green Bay's offensive line, and they only allow pressure every 24% of the time, which is kind of, if you look here, that's kind of the same. But this is not average. This is below average here. But this year, Arizona's defense, this is average. Their pressure rate and their sack converted into sack percentage, that is below average. And because of that, it calculates to Jordan Love could have a field day here. And this also, remember what I was talking about earlier, Dontavian Wicks. So Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, and Jordan Love could have a good game against Arizona. This could be a good game just in general. There could be a lot of points scored in this game. And then the third game here is going to be Detroit's offensive line against the Cowboys' defensive line. And I actually have David Montgomery as my play of the week for running backs because this is just ridiculous here, okay? The Lions' offensive line, 1.70 yards before contact, and the Cowboys allow 1.40 yards before contact on defense. So they are not getting any push at all. This is one of the worst in the league. And they're actually going to be missing probably like 3 defensive linemen. So the Lions, with their great offensive line, they're just going to run that ball. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are going to have a good game. I have David Montgomery as my play of the week because he's only projected 14 points, but I think he has a chance to blow up just because of how bad the Cowboys' run defense is and how good the Lions' run offense is. And then the last one I want to talk about, there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game too. I think the over and under is like over 50, but it is the Baltimore Ravens offense against the Commanders defense. And look at this here. The Ravens, before contact, yards before contact, 1.94. And the Commanders, they give up 1.57. That's actually more than what the Cowboys get. So they're worse than the Cowboys. And, they're just going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry already has like 6 or 7 touchdowns this year. This is going to be a lot of scoring in this game. There's going to be a lot of passing. There's going to be a lot of scoring, as we can see here. Baltimore has the advantage by 25%. So I am a Derrick Henry owner and a Jaden Daniels owner. This game is going to probably win me of the week. This is going to be a lot of fun. Now we're going to jump on the other end of the spectrum. These are the games that you do not want fantasy players in. And we're going to start with Philadelphia's offensive line against the Cleveland Browns defensive line. And let's look here at the passing. So Philadelphia, they actually give up a 31% pressure rate to the quarterback, and it turns into sacks 17% of the time. And the Cleveland Browns, they pressure you 37% of the time. That turns into sacks 20% of the time. That is not good. For Philadelphia here, they are negative 52% in the passing. I think it could be a struggle, but it could still be done. The Browns are kind of like a dumpster fire right now. But, I mean, even with Jalen Hurts, I think A.J. Brown's going to be back. Devontae Smith is going to be back. You play your studs. You're going to play them either way. I think you'll be fine, but I don't think you're going to get any monster numbers. And this is actually very surprising to me just because of how good the Eagles line has been for a couple years now, 2 or 3 years. But hey, didn't someone just leave to do a podcast? So, and now for the second game, I want to go back to the Lions-Cowboys game. So this is Cowboys offense against the Lions defense, and the Cowboys offense, they allow pressure to the quarterback 26% of the time, and 22% of the time it turns into a sack. And the Lions, they pressure the quarterback 36% of the time, and it turns into sacks 15% of the time. They got that one guy, Aiden Hutchinson. Yeah, he's actually pretty good. The Cowboys' offensive line is not good. They're going to be in Dak Prescott's face all game, and the Lions are just going to run the ball. This should probably be an easy victory for the Lions, and yeah, that sucks. All right, so this third game here is New England Patriots against the Houston Texans. I wasn't wanting to point out the passing because we know the passing is going to be bad in this game for the Patriots. They got a rookie out there. It's not going to be great. So I wanted to focus on the running. The running looks like it's not going to be great either. It's minus 21%. New England 1.40 yards before contact. Houston allows 1.27 yards per contact. So they're probably going to be a lot of fighting at the line of scrimmage. They don't really get inside the 5 yard line a lot or do runs inside the 5 yard line a lot. But against Houston, and apparently they've given up 9 rushes inside the 5 this year, but only converted on 33% of them. So only 3 goal line rushes this year for touchdowns. This isn't a good matchup for New England, and Ramondre Stevenson is out. So it's actually for Antonio Gibson. He's going to be the starting running back. He could probably I think he's going to receive a lot of targets this game, so he could benefit from this matchup. All right, let's do this last game here. It's late. I'm getting tired. Let's wrap this thing up. The Bengals offensive line against the Giants defensive line. The Bengals earn a 1.23 yards before contact when running the ball. The Giants only allow 1.28 yards before contact. So we might see a lot of hits in the backfield. The Bengals are not getting a lot of push when they're in the teams that they're playing against. So this could really benefit the Giants here. And the Bengals are disadvantaged at 15% in the run game against the Giants. So I think Chase Brown just got put on. He's questionable now. But Zach Moss is playing. So that might be something you really want to take a look at. Hopefully he could get some receptions out of the backfield because he might not do well running the ball this week. All right, that's it. Let's wrap it up. Now you know what players you want to target. Now you know what players you want to avoid, and it's because of the matchup on the offense and defensive line. Remember, games are won and lost in the battle of the trenches, and you know what players or what games you want to be involved in or games you don't want to be involved in because of the offensive line and the defensive line matchup. So on Fridays, do a live show every Friday. We do our weekly rankings. You can come in. You can ask questions. We'll answer them. If we want to know where your players landed on our rankings list, just click this video here. I'll take you right there. I'll talk to you in that video.